Hello, everyone. Welcome to East Liberty Park Community Organization. We go by ELPCO's January 23rd, 2025 community meeting. This is our first meeting of 2025, and we are gearing up for a interesting new year. We hope everyone out there had a restorative holiday, and we're so thankful to you for being here tonight. We have a packed room in here this evening. It's kind of nice to see. And we will continue to let folks in on the Zoom meeting as they pop into our waiting room. As always, we start our evening talking about our fantastic Salt Lake City Fire Department, as everybody in the room probably knows, but for folks who are new, when the Salt Lake City Fire Department restructured, and they moved a lot of the heavy equipment down to Station 1 in order to handle the load that's at the downtown station. We received the chat team and people who alternative response teams up here at Station 5, and we're very happy to have them. We're very supportive of the work they do. The alternative response teams are very, very busy. So we haven't seen them for a while, but at next month's meeting, we will be inviting the fire department here to go over some of the things we learned from them this summer when we were invited to a meeting with them about the future planning of the Salt Lake City Fire Department. So again, shout out to the fire department for keeping us all safe and for working so hard to, help with this alternative response mechanism that the city has put into place. The second thing on our agenda is Detective Sam Follows. But before we get to Detective Follows, I want to go ahead and introduce folks in the room, our board members in particular. To my left, we have Judy Short. Judy is not only our fantastic land use advisor, she is also the land use chair at Sugar House. And ELPCO is really lucky to have this crossover with our D7 neighbors and also have some shared land use duties with them in this area. It's been really important during the time that I've been chair to be able to work closely with folks that are way smarter and way more doing it a lot longer than I have. So, I feel really lucky and blessed to have that. Then next to Judy, just a little bit down, we have Robert Goodman. Robert is new to our team. He is a student at the University of Utah. He represents an at-large position, and we're lucky to have him. He's brand new. This would be his first official meeting with ELPCO. Next to him is Jeanette Young. She represents us as our secretary and our treasurer. Just a note for the folks out there that we are actively looking for a treasurer if anybody is interested. Jeanette's doing a good job, but we just, are always looking for more board members, people to help us out doing the work we do. So Jeanette and I have been talking a lot lately about strategic planning for 2025, and she will be at the next board meeting. She'll be really instrumental in helping us organize that. Also in the room is Alan Crittenden, who represents another at-large position. He lives in this ninth and ninth area. Alan has been serving as our vice chair of our land use committee, but he is currently stepping up to take on the chair position after the loss of our dear Alicia, who has had some other commitments that have taken priority in her life. And we wish Alicia Cunningham Bryant the best, the absolute best. And she is so wonderful that we will always be family, I think. But Alan, thank you so much for standing up to that. Next to Alan, we have another at-large position. David Jones is in the room. David represents or lives closer to the Gilmore Park area, so a little bit more east of here. And David, again, is very instrumental in everything where we need to cross our T's and dot our I's. And I honestly could not do this job without him. So, David, thank you for being here. I have some folks in the waiting room that we are admitting. It looks like online we have a special guest, Grant, our current legislator, is.
Me.
Oh, no, that's you. Okay, good. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, different Grant.
No, I'm the less,
yay.
less important.
No, that's great. Yeah. Grant, our legislator, was here last month, and he just kind of popped on in there. He's been using his middle name, so I've been kind of confused about that. But yeah,
there's not too many Grants.
Well, no, it's really good that you said that. Okay, so I guess it's up to you, Detective Follows. Can you take it from here?
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Can we hear him okay?
Yeah, like spirit.
I'm coming from my car tonight, so give me a second.
Hit us.
Okay, so I'll speak up then. Can everybody hear me okay? A little bit better if I speak up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm Detective Sam Fallows. I'm your community liaison for this area. I wanted to go over just some of the year-end crime stats for 2024 for ELPCO. And then I'm going to give a quick update about just a case of interest. And then if anybody has any questions or things that they want me to follow up on or requests or things like that, I'll go ahead and take those at the end. Also online as well, if you just want to throw them up in the chat if you have any questions. So let's dive into well, actually, before we get into the stats, just a few reminders about the cold weather months. As we are in these months, a lot of people tend to warm up their cars for sure, which is fine. But we just want to remind people to make sure that you're with your vehicle while it's warming up, or that you utilize like an auto start feature or something like that where your vehicle can't be moved. We do see a lot of like uptick in motor vehicle thefts during this time of year. So it's just a good reminder to just make sure you're not leaving your vehicle unattended when it's running and can be driven away. And then also just as what we had in the past, people leaving like extra fobs or keys in the vehicles, and they were getting stolen as well, like overnight, getting broken into and stolen. So just be aware of that. We recently also, like if you own a Hyundai, I don't know if you guys have seen in the news recently, but there's these stupid TikTok challenges going around where kids are stealing Hyundais. And we had a specific 2 juveniles that were doing that quite a bit in our city. They were apprehended, and I think that's pretty much stopped at this point. But just if you have a Hyundai, be aware of that. Like maybe take some extra precautions to lock it up or lock your steering wheel, things like that, until they figure out. And they might have figured out how to fix it by now, but it was a problem. So if you own a Hyundai, watch out for that. And then, so yeah, let's get into the yearly stats. So what we're going to look at is online. It's on the SLCPD website. Anybody has access to this. It's all a free service that we offer for the police department. We have lots of different online data that you can look at, calls for service for the last 48 hours, crime stats for each different neighborhood. We don't have any for 2025 yet because January, we do it month by month. So when January is finished, then we will have January 2025. But for now, we'll go over the 2024 stats. So it's interesting to see pretty much in most of my neighborhoods similarities between the percentages, the overall percentages. So when we dive into it, actually, so we're looking at motor vehicle thefts. Those are actually down for the year, which is awesome for ELPCO specifically. But when we're looking at the overall stats, we kind of look at we look at violent crime and we look at property crime, and eventually we're going to expand it more. I believe it'll be coming pretty this year for sure, but more towards the beginning of this year. Their goal is to expand the categories more. I know that was of interest to some of my different councils, to me as well, because it kind of paints a broader picture. But for now, what we have is the property crimes and the violent crimes. So when we look, when I'm talking about these numbers, we want to keep a few things in mind. So when we look at, for instance, the violent crime, if we look at the year to date, so January to December, violent crime in the ELPCO went up a little bit. It went up 17%. So that sounds like a lot, right? When we break down the numbers, we had 20 reported violent crimes compared to 17 last year. So it went up 3. It's not great. We don't want to see that, obviously. But when we break it down to the numbers, it's not like we had an increase of like 50 violent crimes in the area. So that's more what I'm concerned with as the community liaison is, are we seeing like huge jumps? So we got to be careful with the percentages, but just to be transparent, it was up 17.6%. The good thing is the property crime was down 11.6% for the year in ELPCO, and overall crime was down 9.7%, and that's for the year. If we go back to the 3-year average, violent crime is down 1.5% and property crime is down 31.1%, and combined we're down 29.4%. So the good thing about these numbers is when we break them down, it kind of just gives us a decent snapshot of what's going on in the neighborhood, where we can maybe improve a few things. And as the police department, for sure, it lets us know where kind of the hot spots kick up and things like that. So our crime analysts are constantly, analyzing this data. We're partnered with so University of Texas San Antonio, that helps us with our violent crime data and analyzing all that and creating hotspot locations and all these things. So Salt Lake City it's really cool. I've worked for a few different departments, and Salt Lake City is it's data driven, which is great in the sense that we're able to take this data, utilize it to create, like I said, like the hotspots, or put it out to patrol of like, hey, we've had this many burglaries in this area and we're seeing an uptick. And they can create these crime patterns where they can say it's very likely there's going to be another one at this time, at this day, or during this day of the week, and then patrol can take that information and do more with it. So by way of like extra patrols or going out and looking for those types of problems that pop up. So it's pretty cool when you break down the data, what you can do with the data. So with the data also, it's important to look. Let me see if it's up there. Yeah. So what I also like to kind of compare is our 2020 numbers. So go back a little bit further than the 3-year average. And you can see like 2020 was obviously one of the roughest years for all of us, 2021 as well. But we can see a really, really steady decrease on the year to dates from 2020 to 2024. It's less than half now at this point. So those are all positive things that we're also looking for when we're looking at like longer term data and a larger picture of what's going on in the city and each neighborhood. So, are there any questions on the statistics or the crime data before I move on?
Anyone in the room have a question? And I don't see any,
Not specifically about that.
yeah, I don't see any hands out there in Zoom. However, I do have a question that keeps coming up, and it's mostly old business. So follow up to some of the conversations we had before when we met with Chief Brown and his technology crew. we talked about that a variety of crimes would continue to come online. So now we're doing violent crimes and property crimes. But what happens, what kind of crimes are still not being captured in the stats here, Detective Wallace?
So I don't know if anybody remembers, it's been a good year and a half, maybe even 2 years at this point that we updated the website. But before we used to have basically all part 1 and part 2 crimes, which included things from like vandalism, um, vehicle burglaries, other types of thefts. It broke it down quite a bit more into like a lot of different categories. And so I've spoken to our analysts, and that is their intent, is to bring back most of those categories that we had before. And if y'all remember, that website was being it was being managed by an outside source that we were paying, and so we brought everything in house, and this is what they started with. So now they're getting to a point where they're things are running smooth with the new team and all these things. So they're yeah, my understanding is, and I can follow up on it because it has been a little bit, but the last time I talked to them, it's been maybe 6 months or so, or probably less, that they were saying, yeah, we want to expand it coming into 2025. In the beginning of the, somewhere in the beginning of the year of 2025, we want to expand it to those further categories so we have a better snapshot for the different neighborhoods, because not every neighborhood deals with a lot of violent crime, or deals with a lot of theft, or deals with a lot of whatever it may be. So yeah, that is their goal, is to expand those categories, and it will be things like that were kind of up there before, like I said, like vandalisms, vehicle burglaries. I think there was like intox calls, like just a bunch of different types of calls.
Right. All right, thanks. And also, again, I wanna just state really clearly for everyone in the room and in the crowd, in that we're lucky here at East Liberty Park in that Chief Brown and his analyst team did invite community council chairs to come down to participate in the redirecting of this program, the stats programming. So we felt really lucky to get to participate, put our ideas, tell them what we need, and Detective Follows, clearly hears us when we say that some of the crimes that we feel like we're experiencing here aren't necessarily captured in what's up. So apparently we're still moving in that direction, and we'll have a follow-up a little later down. I have one more question, right? And I know Josh is going to speak to this later on, but how is the new My Salt Lake app working for you specifically in terms of calls and things like that? Are people starting to understand that it's not a vehicle for like 911 calls?
Yeah, so far I haven't had any major issues with that. I think we've driven that point home quite a bit to where most people are used to it now, where it's not used to report crimes. It's more used to report issues in the city, with either whether it be, camping, trash, but also, just so you guys know, as residents, also you can utilize it for some pretty cool things, like just some basic stuff, like if your garbage can needs to be replaced, or there's a stop sign that's down in your neighborhood that needs to be fixed. We always kind of talk about the My Salt Lake. Is that what it's called? My Salt Lake City app now? Is that what it's called?
That's what it's now called.
Yeah. Sorry. We always think of that app as like, we're just going to report the homelessness issues or the camping but you can use it for a lot of cool things. If you're, as a Salt Lake City resident, there's a lot of cool things you can utilize it for. But yeah, so far I haven't had any major issues with people trying to report crimes on there. And I meet pretty regularly with what we call the Heart Team here in Salt Lake City, and they're the ones that get those app requests directly when it's related to like the homelessness issues and things like that. And they are the ones that we coordinate together on all that stuff. So yeah, so far it's been great. And I do want to clarify one quick thing. So even though we're not seeing those extra categories, going back to the crime statistics, we're not seeing those extra categories, just so y'all understand, we still track all that data as a police department. So it's not like we don't track the data. It's not like we don't have the data. It's just not something they're displaying on the website currently. The plans are to display in the near future, if that makes sense.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, so We do have something in the chat from Amy Hawkins, who is the chair of the Ballpark Community Council. Amy says, not ELPCO business, but thank you and the Salt Lake City PD for your recent attention and arrests on the 1400 South block of State Street. It's been a big deal. And, again, it's a D5 issue, and we try and support all of our community council neighbors, community councils, but also our neighbors in D5. So thank you from all of us on that. Detective Follows, and also thank you, Amy, for bringing it up.
Yeah, our detectives did a phenomenal job on that. They did.
Yeah. Does everybody in the room know what they're talking about? Or
No.
Yeah, okay. Can somebody quickly, Amy, why don't you just go ahead and jump on there quick and tell them no, and let us know what went down there, just so that people in the room and online know what we're talking about.
Sure. Hello from my jog that's happening right now. I'm on the 1700 South block in between West Temple and Main Street. There's Menno's behind me. So there's been a lot of concentrated activity, pretty serious activity on the 1400 South block of State Street. You might have seen some news items in the past couple of weeks. There was a incredibly serious assault one night where a man was stabbed to the point where the reports said his intestines were showing. I find that particularly gruesome. But there have also just been a lot of concentrated activity. There have been other assaults that have been less critical, less life-threatening to body and soul, I guess. But my understanding is on Tuesday night, there was a sting operation at a business that was calling itself My Pods, and with multiple Z's after it. And this is not a very legitimate business. I've been receiving complaints about it for some time by surrounding business owners, and it turns out that it was a gambling operation, and there may be other more serious charges associated with it. And the business owner was arrested. He was also funneling money to an illegal operation in Murray. Detective Fallows, I would love for you to fill in details.
That's a pretty good overview. I don't know that we need to go too much more in depth, just for the sake of time. But thank you, Amy, so much for helping us understand. We are truly lucky that, this isn't happening every day in our neighborhood. So, we appreciate, again, Detective Follows, for you and your teams. It's been nice to see that. Some movement.
Strong agree. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that's a violation we hear about much.
Yeah, no, we don't hear about it a lot. We have had some violent things that happen, but it's not our all day, every day, as it is in some other places in our lovely city. So, it's just always great to hear some success stories, and when changes in the safety plan are starting to work, we really like to hear that. So, on that note, Detective Follows, we do have some people in the room who have been really working hard to organize their neighbors around the recent juvenile vandalism, like we spoke about. How do you want to move on to that? Do you want to go ahead and just kind of give a brief overview and then take questions? Potentially some new people online are also here to speak to that. How would you like to move forward?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, essentially, I think most people know that there was, let me pull up the info real quick so I know I'm talking about the right thing. On or about December 28th, that it was basically early morning hours of December 28th, right before New Year's. There were some juveniles that were going around and damaging vehicles, possibly trying to break into them. And that might be what the damage was. Part of the damage was them breaking windows, trying to get into them, or possibly just breaking the windows as well. In a nutshell, that's really essentially what it was. There were several vehicles impacted by it. We put out a press release with the police department. Let's just jump into what questions, or what follow-up items do y'all have for me?
Okay, first of all, I'm going to just introduce Allie, and Allie is our neighbor who was the one that initially reached out to us and got the news involved. She activated Nextdoor, and again, I'm going to say this on the public record that I said earlier in that, I was really impressed working with Allie on this because she was so level-headed and kind and factual, and was really just trying to organize her neighbors to try and figure out, how to move forward with this. So Allie, I'm going to just let you introduce yourself in any way that you're comfortable, and go ahead.
I'm Allie Vaughan. I live just right on 800 East, between Yale and Belmont, and it was my car that was the video that
That went viral.
yes, those little punks destroyed. And it's my understanding, I know the news story said that they were trying to break in and we should take things out of our cars, but nobody I know of had anything stolen. And they only wanted to damage my car, and they did. It was like $2,500 with damage. So I've tried to get a call back from the police. I haven't heard back from them. I've called them a number of times and just politely left my name and my number, and I just wanted to hear back if anything ever happened. And for the record, I didn't go to Nextdoor first. I think it was like 2 or 3 days after.
Yeah.
I went around and asked all the neighbors in the everyone. I'm like, hey, this happened. Do you have any ring footage? Does anyone else know who these kids are? I've asked so many people. I've asked all the schools. I haven't heard anything at all. I just want to know.
Yeah. Well, first time, I'm sorry that they haven't got back to you. So, I looked up this case, about a week ago when I talked to, when me and Christina talked about it. And then, so yeah, I, from what I can see on the case and talking to, the detective, it was assigned to our property crimes detective. So I would agree with you that it's most likely more of a vandalism than it is like a vehicle burglary, because it seemed like, yeah, like you said, they were just wanting to cause damage, basically. I like your word, punks. I agree with you. So one of the challenges we have had with this case, and I don't 100% know why, but one of the challenges we've had is identifying the suspect. So that's currently where the case is right now, is they're trying to actively identify him still. And our detective is working with the SRO, the school resource officers, excuse me, they're called SROs. They're trying to work with them to identify those well, I don't want to say students because I don't know that that's what they are, but those juveniles. And as far as I can see in the case and talking to the detective, they're still trying to do that right now. So, there hasn't been an arrest made or things like that yet, because they're still trying to identify the kids in that video. So if anybody has any further information on that kind of stuff for me, I'd be happy to take it. And,
Has anyone else, has any more happened? Like, have there been any more vandalism from these guys, maybe?
As far as I know,
they got caught and they don't want to.
Yeah. As far as I know, it was isolated to that night. We had a total of, let me see, I think 7 cases, including yours.
Yeah.
A lot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to downplay that by any means. But it was all pretty much that night, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 7 different victims. We have to do a case for each victim, obviously, so we can keep track of, each individual victim. And so we had 7 incidents of vandalism that night, or on or about that night. I don't know of any since then. So it hasn't been like a major pattern of like a continuing issue where, we're seeing more cars broken for no reason, that I'm aware of, and I haven't seen it. I pay pretty close attention to our watch logs and things like that, and I haven't seen anything like that. So, I would say it was probably more isolated to that night. But yeah, currently, I mean, that's just to be straight up honest with you, they're just trying to identify those suspects still. So, what I want to do is I'm going to follow up with I will follow up as well. So I don't investigate cases directly. I'm not that kind of a detective, but what I'll do is, I'll do what my job is, which I will liaison between you, and I will go talk to the SROs and see if I can because sometimes what happens is these cases, sit for a second, and then 50 other cases come in, and so I'll make
Yeah.
sure that we can try and make sure that we're still actively working on it and stuff like that, because 7 cases is a lot. So or 7 incidents of
That's a
them
lot.
is a
Yeah.
lot. For
And
like,
it was particularly violent
Mhm.
vandalism. And I feel like in terms of the sort of outrage that we received at East Liberty Park Community Organization were individuals just being struck by the sort of nature
Mhm.
of the vandalism itself and how particularly violent it in itself appeared. So just to clarify for everybody in the room, because East Liberty Park also hosts East High School, and criminal justice in the juvenile world is difficult, and we have an education committee that we have formed in order to both support the youth who are affected, and who maybe need supportive services in order to stop doing things like this, but also to support our neighbors who are affected by this sort of stuff. So again, I want to be clear that Detective Follows has been really great working with us on this to try and change things behind the scene, to make identifying juveniles easier and more consistent, especially if we're going to try and get those kids the supportive services they need to keep them out of the system in the long term. Because I feel like something we've seen in ELPCO over time, if we don't get kids the help they need soon, and they just keep doing it over and over and over, that they end up in the adult system doing much more harder crimes. So thank you, Allie.
Yeah, it seems like it was swallowed up in the system, and that,
Mhm.
but I do care, and I do want to follow up. I do want to know what happened. And I know when you watch the video and the newscast, they cleaned it up. It's someone knows who that is. And it's so odd. I mean, there are kids at the schools that are like, oh my gosh, I know who that is. They probably just don't want to tell on them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's so many identifying characteristics of the 2 others that were in the video and what they had on.
Mhm.
So it just takes a little more. I'm willing to help.
Yeah.
I-
So
yeah.
we'll put you two
I
in
would-
touch.
I will definitely follow up for you for sure, and
Thank
I
you.
have your contact info from the report, so I'll
Great.
follow up with you,
Thank
and
you.
we'll make sure that at a minimum we get some follow up. How about that? But yeah,
Thank-
we'll do that. And that's completely it's yeah. I'm sorry we didn't reach out to you quicker. Were you calling? I'm just curious. Were you calling the patrol line and just asking for an update on your case, and then?
I got a recording every time, and I said, this is me. I called the number that they said I was supposed to call, and then I would give them my case number and leave a message, and then I didn't call back. So I don't know.
Oh, was it a detective's
I think so.
phone? Okay, I'll
Yeah.
follow up with him.
Okay,
Great.
I'll scold him a little for you.
thanks.
And it's not a good excuse, but they have like tons of cases, so I'll make sure that he takes a look at it and everything, and yeah, we'll make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks for sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Is there any other questions on any of that, or just in general, real quick? Before I know we don't have a ton of time, but
It's
is there
okay.
any-
I just wanted to make sure that anybody online, there's some faces I don't recognize. So is there anyone online who wants to speak to this? Just go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself. Jump in. Looks like we're good on that. Anybody else in the room have any questions for Detective Follows before we let him go? All right. As always, thanks so much. Be talking to you soon.
Have a great night.
Good night. We talk a lot. Okay, so moving on with our agenda, we have Josh Riboyo from the mayor's office. And one question for Josh before he starts giving us his spiel, or one comment towards Josh is, wow, great job marketing the My Salt Lake app. It's just been fabulous publicity, like the videos have been great. And it's been easy for us to post in our newsletter and stuff like that. So thanks. Go ahead, Josh.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that and glad you noticed the promotion of the app. The engagement team in the city has been working hard on rolling that out over this last little while. The app, My SLC Mobile, has been available for a little while now, a few months now that it's kind of replaced the old app. But now we're getting the word out there to people to encourage people that may have used the app before and maybe had a bad experience with it to use the app now, this new one, or if you haven't, to download it for the first time. And so we're already, from what I'm hearing, seeing just an overall increase in engagement with the city through that app since this launch. And so we just hope that it'll continue to increase and people will continue to use the app to report issues and will share with us and your experiences, good and bad. And what I've heard so far has been pretty positive. People saying that it's easy to use, you know, that it is an improvement over the previous app. So just continue to share feedback with us, and we in the city will continue to work to improve it and make it as user-friendly as possible. And one of the things that eventually you'll be able to get on the app and pay your utility bills directly on there and not have to be transferred to a different site. So it'll be very well integrated to everything city related. So it really will be like a one-stop shop for anything city. So as we work towards that ultimate goal, encourage you to download it and to use it, or to go to myslc.gov, which is the same interface that you'll see on the app, which is kind of one of the other nice things, is that whether you're on your phone or online, it looks the same. It's the same process. So any questions in relation to the app? I guess.
I have a quick question for the group, both online and here. How many people have the app on their phones right now or are utilizing the app? So it's really well utilized in the room here, Josh. So that seems good. Or at least it's downloaded, ready for use.
Great. That's good to hear. And yeah, I'm sorry. I want to, can Amy put in the chat, have there been any updates to the Romac shopping cart phone number? When I call to report an abandoned cart, the call goes straight to voicemail with the recording to Sue. So yeah, Amy, I've seen an email about that between us and the homeless engagement team. I have to follow up with them and figure out what's going on with Romac and why that continues to be the case. Romac is a service provider that picks up shopping carts, and we route a lot of the shopping cart requests that from the app to them. And in some cases, you have to call them to report the app to their hotline. And for some time, that phone number has gone to the voicemail of one of the employees there, I believe, whose name is Sue. But if you called them, you wouldn't know that you were calling the shopping cart phone number. You'll just get a voicemail saying this is Sue. So it's kind of confusing. So we're trying to figure that out with them. So if you report a cart, you're told to call this number. That's what you might be led to, but still report the cart. It is the right company, just something is going on with their voicemail. So we'll figure that out and hopefully get them working, get that working better. But yeah. So aside from the app, we have obviously a lot of things going on in the city and in the state, in our country. A lot of things happening. We have the mayor has recently released the public safety plan, and I encourage everyone to read it. It's online, and I can post the. Oh, sorry, I was going to post the link online in the Zoom chat, and it froze for a sec. So I'll do that in a second when I'm able to do that. But it's available online. It's about a 50-page report, and it is very complete. It's not just a law enforcement plan. It really is a complete plan of what needs to be done, what is going to be done by the city, and what actions the city can take to address public safety and address homelessness and providing resources to people that need it, and what our partners at the state and county level and in the justice system can do to make that system work. And so it is a pretty comprehensive plan. And if you've read it or if you read it and there's any questions, please address those to our office. As we, the plan unrolls, there's a lot of different facets to it. One of them, for example, might involve some ordinance changes as we go along with this year. More will be coming out on that. So this is still a new thing, and the legislature just started this session, and so working with them to try to get at least somewhere close or attempt to get funding for what is needed to make the system work better. And so is what really the mayor hopes to drive home in taking this opportunity and responding to the governor's letter. So yeah, if there's any questions on that, please let me know. And
Josh?
quickly, go ahead.
Josh, this is Judy. I was going to ask if we have any knowledge yet of where the 1,000-bed building will be.
Or if,
Or what?
or if it will be. Like, there's some questions, and a lot of this is coming from our friends at the state and, that have been doing the legislative previews that, just because the mayor offered this doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to come to fruition, given wherever the legislature ends up. So go ahead and speak.
Right. So what the plan has said and what the city will do is offer up that property to serve as temporary interim shelter location while the state searches for a permanent campus for homeless services that's meant to fill the gap of roughly 1,000 to 1,600 beds, and as well as provide space for people who live in vehicles and RVs to have a space to park as well, have that incorporated. But in that interim period between now and when the state identifies that site and begins operating it, the city is offering city property, what I've heard, airport property, to fill this gap for up to 24 months. So as a temporary measure, but obviously, if there's not funding, if there's not, something coming along from the state, and then what the city does is not going to be enough. So this is really contingent on everyone coming to the table and doing their part. And what this plan really says, and what the mayor hopes it shows, is that the city is stepping up to the plate to do its part, acknowledging, where we can improve, where as a city we can improve, and what we will do to improve those things, and saying to the state, this is what you need to do. So, so it obviously, won't be, none of this will be successful if it's only the city acting alone.
Great question, Judy. Thanks. I think that clarifies a lot for folks. The question about location, and to hear, this is the first time I've heard that potentially it might be airport property, I think will, settle some folks that are concerned about, this popping up in their neighborhood unexpectedly. But more importantly, Josh, we want to thank ELPCO would like to thank the mayor and her team for so swiftly putting together the safety plan, as a response to the letter from the state. It turned out really great so quickly. So, that's much appreciated by our organization. And if you would relay that back, that would be good.
I will, thank you. And thanks to Jeanette, I put that in the chat, the links to that. But I think ELPCO shared that as well on your channels.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So this said, we want to let you know that ELPCO is not going to be touching the safety plan right away. We're not gonna, I mean, of course, we're reading it, we're digging into it, but we're not gonna really start talking publicly about it until after the legislative until after the legislative session is over, because I think the whole point is maybe this will be a good opportunity for collaboration. And that's what we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we're going to actually get from the state. And the plan that the city worked up is, some clear level-headed communication, working together, no more finger pointing, fingers crossed again. So does anybody else have any comments about this that they'd like to make? Any questions? I don't see any hands out there in Zoom. I did see a thumbs up. Go ahead and speak up out there if somebody wants to say anything.
I did have just one more, two quick things actually.
Okay, we're quick. We're good here. Nobody's raising their hand.
Great. So the first is the point in time count that happens every year. I think I've seen the cell shared with ELPCO on your Facebook page, but the county's still looking for volunteers for people that want to join in the point in time count, which is starting next Thursday. Happens Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I just put in the chat, it's a kind of a long URL, but it's the sign up sheet for those that are interested in volunteering. You don't have to any volunteer can do all or one or part of a day. It's only 2 hours. It is 2 hours in the morning. It is early morning and obviously cold, but I hear that they're doing okay on volunteers, but obviously can always use more to help with that effort. And then for city watchers out there, which I'm pretty sure is everyone here, the mayor will be giving the State of the City speech next Tuesday, January 28th at 7 p.m. And you can stream that. People that if you haven't been specifically, I think, invited to go to the site location because it's kind of small space at the library, the main library in downtown. It'll be available to live stream on Facebook, on the mayor's Facebook page, and on the Salt Lake City SLC TV YouTube page.
Great. Okay, any last comments or questions for the mayor's office? Okay, Josh, again, I would just like to kind of end your segment with, it's new year, it's 2025. There's a lot of work ahead of us. I think, America has a lot of work to do. So, we are always hopeful that, your team will let us know if there's anything that we can do to be a productive part of solutions that make Salt Lake even better place for us all to live in. So, we're always open to any of that. Keep us in mind.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, next on our agenda is Michael Mayo, who, when I put my glasses on, I readily welcome. So Michael has been before us for a few years now. We're really lucky, and actually through Judy, I met Michael through Judy. He's been doing the CIP for the Liberty Park Greenhouse, which is essentially right there as you walk out to your car. So everyone look off to the northeast, and you'll see what Michael's been working on. Will you go ahead and introduce yourself, a brief history of the CIP process that you undertook, and give us an update on where you're at? And
okay, that's fine. I could do it. I have a PowerPoint, but if the technology doesn't work, I can just go ahead and.
Can we plug in that PowerPoint?
Otherwise, I'll just set it here. I'll talk from memory.
Okay, well, just 1 second. I think that we can. Yep, Michael, I apologize. I'm so used to everyone bringing their laptops and just sharing screens that I just forget to offer.
In winter.
I just forget to offer, so my bad. Also, Michael has been inviting a lot of community-minded folks to a presentation that's happening at the university, and I'll let him give us some more information about that in a minute.
saying access denied. I always talk off the top of my head.
Access denied. Oh no, shut down. Okay, just
All right.
go ahead and let us know what.
So, well, short-term memory works. Well, thank you for the time. My name is Mike Mayo, and I've been in Salt Lake City for about 3 years now. Now, why the Liberty Park Greenhouse? I'm not on the board. I'm not on the board for the park. And I just use the park a lot. And was over there one night. There's a heartwarming story with my dog. Loves to hunt. Greenhouse is a great place to chase after rodents. I like the greenhouse. I've done a lot of do-it-yourself kind of projects. I look at the thing and it needs help. One night, door opens up, enters Blake Wellard. If you know who Blake is, he's an ecologist. Does a wetlands project and he's working out of there. I invite myself in. And after a couple of minutes, he's teaching a class. And of course, it doesn't stop me from going in. And I said to Blake, I said, boy, you've done such wonders to this place. You know, being a little bit snarky. And it's in a shambles. And we start talking. He understands that I'm a professor or was a professor at Kent State. And he said, well, why don't you write a grant? And he started to introduce me to the CIP process. So that's where we started about 2.5 years ago. Now, as you leave tonight, you go look at the greenhouse, you're not going to see anything. You're going to see a lot of darkened spaces because it's at this point in time, it's foreclosed, I guess, or it's being shut down. So I wish I could show you the pictures because back in about circa 1927 or so, if you could kind of visualize the greenhouse, it had a huge rotunda on top of it. It was gorgeous. It's not what we have nowadays. During World War II, what happened is they raised the building for materials. Then in 2008, something called the financial crisis comes along. No funds, cut staff, cut maintenance. And then about in the fall of 2023, the city did a systems-wide audit of its facilities, safety audit, in the greenhouse block. And they actually did a miserable job. If you go over there, you'll find lead paint, you'll find asbestos, you'll find leaky this and that, and HVAC systems that don't work that well. So we made the first grant didn't make it, the second grant did. And what we did on that one there is we had Calder Williams walk through, Richard Scott, it's a consulting firm, walk through and do a kind of a pro bono quick kick the tires and see what was going on. So in our second funding, we had a chance to go ahead and show the city and then look at what this building looked like. And on that basis, we pitched that, and we also pitched the fact that we're going to involve the university, a school architect, in a case competition. So that was supposed to jumpstart the dialogue. That's where we're at, sort of right now. So we're going to have a meeting on Monday with review with the team. We have lands planning department. I would introduce the team, but it's the names escape me. They're on this little piece of memory. We also have Blake Wellard, I mentioned he's an ecologist, myself, and we also have at the University of Utah, we have there's the chair there and one of the doctoral students who's well versed in restoring public buildings. He's working on a doctorate, and he has 10 years of actual license experience. So we've got a nice team put together. So what we're going to try to do is a couple of things. First of all, restore the integrity of the building. So we've done an initial structural analysis. It's going to need a lot more. So our structural analysis is basically go to the GP says cough, sends you to a specialist. Well, the specialist is going to be timed. That was well timed over there.
On cue.
So anyway, what we're doing is a couple of considerations. First is structural, and we've got to get our hands on what we have there. Early indications are it doesn't look nice. The superstructure, everything in terms of the glass and the framing, again, from World War II is a remnant, substandard materials. The rest of it was pushed towards the war effort. Secondly, what we have to do is we start to think about redesigning it. We have a legacy issue. It's in a historical area, and we just can't come in and come up with anything we want to. We have to, in a sense, be sensitive to the history there. Mm-hmm. So that's a kind of design constraint or opportunity. I'm not sure which. And thirdly,
tell me it was a landmark site.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thirdly, and this is the part that gets a little bit exciting, is we get to do the design work. And on Tuesday, the invite, and some of you got it, was to come listen to the progress to date. So we will actually show you drawings where the, I guess the technical term is boo-boos and bad spots in the building are, right? There are many. And then we'll also go ahead and dream out loud. We have some ideas on what the space should be used for. Obviously, a greenhouse. But the kind of consensus is, why do that? Why have a production facility, and just, why don't we just go ahead and dream a little bit larger? So maybe part of the conservatory, perhaps a demonstration area, after school area. I would like to see maybe perhaps a small little refreshment area. We would increase public access and the range of activities. Okay. What I like to do is, once we start thinking about in those terms, there's a couple of things. First of all, the grant I got, it was $124,000. That ain't gonna do the job, right? About $84,000 is the first structural look. So that will be spent. $20,000 goes to the doctoral student as a stipend to do her design work and makes design suggestions. And the other 20 is for general administration. So that went up to 124-ish in that area. The lands planning department's already matched that and then some. They put about $930,000 into it. So we're about $1.1 million grant at this point in time, which will hopefully get us to the point where we have solid way forward to restructure the building and some excellent design issues in terms of making that the Liberty Park itself, the greenhouse, a destination, a jewel in the city. Now, one thing I won't say out loud, which actually I'm going to say out loud, is once we get a design that really is kind of a little bit inspiring, I'd like to take it to the city. You folks have some connections. I hear we're having the Olympics are coming, I think,
2034.
2034, yeah. So I think there might be deeper monies there to make it a venue for that construction area, metal area, press area, or something like that. So it becomes a showcase of the city. So I'm thinking, this is about a decade project in itself. So I think that's what we're trending to at this point in time. So you're all invited next Tuesday to sit back and dream with us.
Great. And with Michael's permission, I have all the emails of everyone who's on the Zoom meeting, and I know everyone in the room. So we'll go ahead and forward that. I know you were doing some web surfing to try and come up with emails. There were some hits and there were some misses, but I will definitely email that invite to the folks that are here and have showed up for the meeting to hear about what you're doing, if that's okay.
That's fine.
All right, so we'll follow up on that. I have a couple of questions for you, and just trying to make it clear for the group here. So Michael's project, or hit the grant that he received, was from the city's capital improvement program, and he received a partial grant funding as a constituent. So as everybody remembers that the grant for this year are now closed, but we're sort of in the process again. Michael went 2 rounds. He was steadfast and just waited until he finally got the approval for his. So congratulations on that. It was a lot of hard work and we really appreciate it. Our community is very grateful. And as the way that we see it or understand it at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, that the greenhouse has become so unstable that it is not being used right now, in that they've moved the city is currently renting facilities in order to operationalize their greenhouse needs right now. And they have supported, through the city's part of the capital improvement program, some funds to do the improvements so that they can get back in there and working as soon as possible. Is that accurate to say?
I think.
I believe.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the immediate goal is to get back into the building. I think we're still looking out to see what we have.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is kind of how we have understood it. I have to just do a little bit of online maintenance real quick. I just want to make sure that anybody out there in Zoom, I noticed that there's some people kind of coming and going. If you're having problems on my end, just please let me know and I will adjust if you're having a hard time with Zoom. And
I have a question.
Yep.
What time on Tuesday is your presentation?
So 2 to 4 o'clock, and we have a Zoom link as well.
A what?
A Zoom link as well.
Okay.
So it'll be up on campus. It'll be at 128 in the architecture building itself.
So it's not at the greenhouse, it's up at the U?
You don't want it to greenhouse.
Okay,
I'll send that to you, David, the invite.
okay.
Oh, to make sure to forward all the invites to
Sure.
make sure.
Yeah, it's at 128. And again, if you send in the emails, I'll be more than send information.
Right, yeah, and then like I can, it's probably easier for me to like just take the list and copy it and copy you on it, because then you can communicate directly to the interested folks. Moving forward, I can do my part to improve your email list. Quick question. Now, moving forward, is there anything that you immediately need from ELPCO, the community, or ELPCO board with your project? Or for now, are we,
No, I think
Pretty
right
good.
now we're good. Just like to see some faces
okay,
here at the table up there. Be fine.
okay, great,
You get the word out.
okay. Great, that's good, thank you.
Thank you.
You gonna head out? Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
all right, Michael?
Speaking of dog, I have to walk it. So
Pretty late to walk the dog.
that's why I told the dog.
Well, as Michael departs, we welcome another board member. Amy Albo, our 9th and 9th business liaison, has joined us at the table. Welcome, Amy. Thanks for coming. Have a good meeting so far. So we're on to the now current year CIP part that ELPCO participates in every year. And I just want to, let you understand the caveat in which we operate, as far as the timeline, the CIP timeline, in that technically, our letters of support would have gone out on the current CIP projects already. However, because ELPCO does not meet the timing of our meetings late in the month, and also because we do not meet in November and December because of the timing of our meetings later in the month that would coincide with the big holidays, we have a special request with the CIP board and their really great administration team to be able to turn in our letters of support later on once the constituents present to us. We feel strongly, or at least I feel strongly as board chair, that we really need to have a lot of voices and hear from our constituents before we write these letters, because there's a lot of competition, and we want to make sure that we are really giving the thumbs up to deserving applicants and people who have, are really going to follow through, have great ideas. Everyone has great ideas, but it's quite the process. And we have, on that note, Damien Hanks, my wonderful neighbor, is right behind us. He's going to start by presenting his project. I'm going to let him introduce himself. But I want to specifically speak to the board members in the room to please be listening in your letter writing mode as if we were in our land use committee tonight. Okay, thank you. Jamie, you want to come up to the table? Are you good? Where do you want to sit? Would you like to sit in my spot?
I can trade you for.
Yeah, there's plenty of room. Oh, you don't have the Zoom link. Okay. Okay, let me get you the Zoom link. Are you doing it on your computer?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't reduce the thing because of, can you send him the Zoom link real quick, Jeanette? Sorry, when the owl is operating on my desktop, it will not let me use the reduction key in order to access anything. So, I'll give you a little bit of background on what I know about this. Damien is actually my next door neighbor, but I have not been involved in the CIP project at all. So, it's been something the neighbors have put together, and I'm really excited to hear about it.
Yeah, it'll be there.
Anybody have any jokes while we're waiting? Anyone?
So we got someone over there.
Okay, we're on hold out there in Zoom. We're just waiting for the Zoom link to kick in so Damian Hanks can share his screen with us.
That's
I'm Aaron. Aaron.
Yeah,
Yes, so I'll be presenting later.
oh, that's great. That's one day. We have the rock star name. We always laugh because every time I hear a name, I'm like, the planner with the rock star name. And then Grant, I had never seen his face, so I was really excited to just be like, oh, you're Grant. But I've been speaking highly of you, Aaron, and all the crazy questions we've been hitting you with lately.
Oh, it's part of the job.
Have to, just speak, is that okay?
Yeah, do you want me to come over there and help, or are you good? Do you want to speak?
Oh, there it is.
It's all right.
I did,
We're low.
everything but that.
Oh. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, I'm letting Keegan in the room. Hey, Keegan, you behind me? Oh, I don't see you. You just, and don't worry, Jamie, this happens a lot.
Especially for me in meetings. Sorry, I was super busy. I'm sure everybody is.
Well, also it kicks folks off sometimes, do you know, so like they have to unfortunately Zoom is great because we reach more people in their homes, but it is problematic, so.
And should I turn my camera? Is that helpful?
Just turn your account.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, I'm entering, you're admitting, and you're ready to share the screen whenever you're officially in the meeting right now. So, oh, it's connecting to Auto. Just give it a second and.
No,
Progress.
Oh, go ahead and turn down your volume. Turn off. There he is.
Sorry, it's just covered on. I think that's fine now, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, and are you familiar with how to share your screen? Do you want me to come over there and help you, or?
No, I can
Okay.
share. I have to take my headset off. So my name is Damian Hanks. I live in the same neighborhood as Christina, and I have two properties that abut this alley, and I've lived there since maybe the early 90s. And so I have a lot of experience or familiarity with the alley, and it hasn't been an issue until maybe 2003 is probably when there was repairs done. I'm mainly here to represent a bunch of our neighbors. There's 35 properties that abut this alley, and varying degrees of need. I've gone through and evaluated each property and talked to, I don't remember how many letters of support we put in, but it should be around 12 or 15. There's many other neighbors that do want to submit a letter of support that are affected in various ways. We have 3 ADUs that are now on the alley, and I plan on building one on one of my properties. My other one is a triplex. It's affected by the alley because there's my tenants have a hard time with off-street parking. I don't have water on my property on either one of them, but I am affected with a lack of storm drain control. And so I had the city come out and put in a berm in order to manage that. I was gonna bring pictures, but I think the city just drove through the alley today and looked at it.
They were out there, yeah.
Yeah, and if you didn't have 4-wheel drive, you can't drive up it. There's like ice all the way up on one side. So the main thing I'm interested in is the alley was in not good shape a number of years ago, and this is the second CIP proposal that I've put in on behalf of the rest of our constituents. The After the Night South reconstruction, they were running, the city's contractors were running equipment up and down the alley, tracked equipment, and that destroyed the last little vestiges of decent asphalt. Between that and changes in spring water, a lot of spring water. One of my neighbors has a sump pump. There's half a dozen sump pumps that pump, actively into the alley. And I just sold a property across the street that on Sunnyside, there's a bunch of springs there. It's what you have to deal with if you live on that hill. So we're asking the city to take responsibility for the impact that that has on our properties and our ability to develop them, and how it affects our diminished use of the properties. A number of our neighbors in their letters of support indicate that they want to build an ADU, or they have a garage, or need access for off-street parking, that they have through the alley, because they don't have a driveway on Sunnyside Avenue or on Night South. So they're all impacted by that. In recent years, it's I think that we've heard issues from utility management. I think the utilities, they had problems when we had the windstorm, and we had power out for several days. I guess it was 5 days. And it's difficult for them to get the big trucks up the alley in order to maintain that. The city has a responsibility to maintain alleys. I believe we have a responsibility to manage our vegetation, as it interferes with access to the alley. But nobody's going to go back there and do maintenance until you can actually access the alley in a reasonable fashion. The proposal for the city includes managing stormwater and then managing discharge from some pumps or passive drains. I'm aware of, I have actually some numbers here. I'm aware of at least 5 or 6 properties that discharge either passively or through a sump pump into the alley. And that comes and goes. My neighbor to the west, she had a very small sump pump system up until about 4 years ago, and it wasn't keeping up anymore. So she's pumping an awful lot of water into the alley. Generally, the law of the land is that if you daylight water, you have to discharge it to the municipality for a municipality to manage. If water flows across my property and flows onto my neighbor's property, and I don't manage it, I'm not liable for that. But if I manage the water and direct it to my neighbor, that's a liability. And so we don't really have any recourse. I put in a French drain on Sunnyside Avenue at another property, and the city came out and addressed the water. They extended the storm drain and all that. That hasn't been done since. But there's a half-hearted effort. They put in storm drains, but they're in the center of the alley, and so they're the high spot. So all the water that runs down runs right past them. So there's access issues. We can't maintain it, and the people that do have, my neighbor Lynn, she has 2 properties on the alley. One of them has an ADU where her sister lives. There's other benefits here for density. If the city's serious about density, if the city's serious about supporting aging in place, many of us have been on the block for 20 to 30 years. We have to have an infrastructure that allows development and management of your real estate. So that's why. So we're asking the city to address this so that we can move forward. Even though Christine is my neighbor, this is something that many of us kind of got the ball rolling. And I've talked to Christina when Jason, I believe, was the previous ELPCO representative. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Well, he was the chair prior to me then.
So our first proposal went in during COVID, and so everything was done remote, and it was also last minute. That's a theme with me. I'm so busy, but we're asking for support from the committee, and we're super enthusiastic, and we're happy that the city now has a line item that really focuses on surface water, storm drain water in areas. I used to do GIS, so I've gone and looked at the city's alley systems. We have one of the steepest alleys in the area. We're not the only ones that have these issues. I walk my dog all the way down to 17 South. There's water everywhere on the hillside. Some of the alleys are not used as much. I know there's another proposal in on Highland. I think this year, I think they're looking to better utilize their resources, but I don't think they have as big of a negative impact on the use of the property. They're looking for efficiency. We're looking for bare bones functionality. That's what we're asking for.
Right, so on that note, and just for the sake of time, thank you, Damien. That was really great. The background is this is the second round, like Damien said, for the CIP. There was a break in between. So 2 points that's relevant to our community or maybe more than 2, but at least 2 points that are relevant to our community council and our board as we are very serious about the letters that we write. One is that we do have one of the steepest degraded alleys in the city, and that it has taken an unusual amount of manpower on behalf of the city, because I have had generally 2 or 3, sometimes up to 5, 6, 10 folks that I'm meeting from the city in the alley, over the last 2 years that I've been chair. And as we all know, when our other David Jones came to speak to us, that alleys have been specifically problematic in the city because there has not been money in the budget for alleyway improvements outside of the prototypical like mapping and the test alleys that they did to see how much reconstruction of alleys take. Now, this one's specifically interesting because of the complications with the runoff and the water in that area. It was also an area that was early on being studied, very seriously because of the Superfund plume of the amount of the water that comes under this neighborhood. So there, the groundwater is highly impactful. And we actually see in this area, and it's not just our area, it goes over into some of Gilmore Park, but over towards 88th as well. So for anybody who doesn't know, we live right behind East High School. We're that neighborhood west of East, as we're technically known to the RCO community, RCO community, is that they plug, the city. I'm gonna go so far as to say is that it's been specifically problematic for the city as it has been for us, right? So you plug a hole and it pops up somewhere else, right? So the storm drains at one point were more efficient and I don't know if you've noticed that they've been working at the bottom of the alley, beefing up that 11th East part of the alley. This alley runs east-west between 1200 East and 1100 East, just north of the Whale. So, keeping in mind that I'm gonna forward you guys this CIP application, and we have a few days to put together this letter of intent or whatever we decide to do. I'm assuming we're probably going to support this. And the biggest point I want to stress is that thanks to ELPCO in the work that we've all been doing on alleys, the city has been really listening to us on how to get money in the budget for improving alleys across the city, and also how to do that in an equitable way, right? And the reason why this alley might be fundable is that they did have a change in code, or their rules in order to mitigate issues in alleys where there are natural consequences like runoff for the first time ever. So, thank you.
So when you're
Damien,
talking about money, this is extra money in the budget that's not part of CIP.
Well, 2 things. And again, I might be misspeaking, but I'm doing the best I can based on the information that was provided to me. So through my filter, we have been consistently advocating for more money in the actual budget, the general fund, the budget, or in the city's CIP funds to the mayor's budget to go towards alley help on alleys that have structural issues that need help. And or, so both, this additional line item that would be part of the constituent. It's now possible for constituents to write this CIP request that it wasn't previously.
Can I comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
No.
one of the things in my discussions with it's David Jones, isn't it? With him and Michael in the stormwater engineering and all that.
Mhm.
You always hear that we're bonding for streets. We don't have money for alleys. Nobody owns the alleys. The utilities don't, or the city is responsible. Like nobody owns them. There's no budget for it.
And this happens all over the city.
Right.
Yeah.
And this particular problem, the water management, so it's earmarked, but there's a $500,000 marked this year in the budget that is more, it's not for placemaking. It's not for, making places safer. It's for dealing with an infrastructure problem, which is, that's where we kind of like ran into a problem previously.
And I'm
They
gonna,
budgeted $500,000 for what?
To address alleys with runoff,
Oh,
stormwater.
not this particular alley, but just alleys in
To
general.
address
Alleys
these kind
in
of
general.
issues. Yeah, we're not the only alley that has
Yeah.
issues.
So then the city
don't
would
think our
have
issue-
another process where they prioritize all the bad alleys.
right. And that
So
is,
you might
that,
be 5 years down the list.
well, that was the process that David was talking to us when he came out, David from engineering. We have two David Jones. This is David Jones, and then our other friend, David Jones, is in engineering. So just to be clear,
Wildly popular name.
yes. So just to even go a little deeper on what Damien just brought up is that, while it is earmarked, it's untested, it's unprecedented. It's, it's kind of a no man's land. Dave, we have this test piece that Damien has put together, this CIP request. We'll see how it goes, but just going to play it by ear. And where was I going with this? We're gonna have to just wait and see, right? So go ahead, Damien, what were you gonna?
And I will, so we've quantified, like there's 35 parcels affected. And we know how many houses, of the 35 parcels, 25 out of 35 either likely or absolutely support this request. Likely is given, I know probably 65-70% of all the neighbors. And I understand other issues. We can identify how many people have a garage, people that don't have access to the back of their alley. So we have ratios for that. So it's a tangible impact on the utility or the use of your property. Given the city's inability or lack of resources in order to address the issue, and we're trying to push on that. So.
Great. Anything else that you want to add? Okay. So again, my presentation is fast. So I'm not worried about getting behind schedule. But I just, again, want to let you know that this is a conversation we can have through email, the board members on this, because I can more easily pass on the entire proposal to you so you can see it. But just keep in mind as you're sending your ideas to, I guess I'm volunteering to write the letter. As you're writing your ideas to me, please be conscientious that it's CIP funding. It's kind of an unprecedented area to potentially get CIP funding on an alley project. And, just remember all the things David Jones told us about the reasons why alleys are not traditionally funded through these public processes. And it'll be good. Any questions from our board? I don't see anyone online. Does anybody have anything? Okay, great. So, again, the other CIP project or proposal that we put through was me on behalf of the ELPCO and the Education Committee. And this was, as a result of the decade and a half of data collection we have done on utilization behind the school in the neighborhoods around the school. Specifically as a result of the Salt Lake City school busing policies, in which the students in the neighborhood are not from the neighborhood. And they come from sometimes all the way out to 5600 West in order to attend school in boundaries at East High School. And And as Ally so clearly pointed out, how difficult it is when both when perpetrators, young perpetrators, are juveniles, and how we consistently see in our neighborhood student on student violence, a lot of student on student violence. This last year, we made a big effort in order to work with our community partners, the Salt Lake City School District Board, the Salt Lake City School District, and the new incoming principal at East High School has made a big difference. But we know that this is something that ebbs and flows. We saw it really reach out into the neighborhoods of Gilmer Park and affect the Garden Park Ward, which was shut down to the public for many, many, many months, which is, sort of a gem in our community. So keeping in mind the balance between the fact that these young folks are our neighbors during the day. They are students, and we want to support them in getting their education and being, okay on the planet with us. At the same time, we want to protect kids who are vulnerable from those who, are hostile to them. And then we also want to protect our neighbors when there are students that really need that extra help from the juvenile justice system in order to get their needs met. But because we are in the nexus of East High School, it's a little difficult in that there is the school property in which the school resource officers operate on behalf of Salt Lake City and the Salt Lake City School Police Department through an MOU with the Salt Lake City School District. And if you talk to anyone, and if you've been watching the news about West High School, you know, or if you've ever worked in a school extensively like I did at West, or lived behind a school like I have for 30 years, you recognize that it's really easy to point fingers that people are not doing a good job, but it's also really clearly to see that they're working so hard, and it's just sometimes you don't have enough resources in a school district to also help with what's happening right off the school. In the nexus around not only our school, but West and Highland. And let's keep in mind that Highland is right next to a major park. So you can imagine that, it's difficult for, say, a principal or some vice principals or a group to go out and also patrol the park when they have to do their duties. So assuming the CIP proposal assumes that everybody is good actors in an effort to work together. Now, we can easily bring up a decade and a half. We have huge storage capabilities of virtual information that documents violent behavior and unsafe behavior behind the school. Most recently, it's become tied to it's like weaponizing vehicles, kids weaponizing vehicles against each other. And sometimes we get in the mix, but more often we see something that makes us a target for harassment. It's not necessarily somebody coming after us, they're the neighbors specifically. We just become targets because we witnessed something that somebody doesn't want us to see. We were lucky to work with Keegan's boss, Lynn Jacobs, who is a great asset in our transportation community. As a part of the CIP process, constituents put together the first plan. The business plan, or the really nuts and bolts, comes from the engineering department in this case, and transportation, in which we all get together. We look at the information and we try and figure out. This case was unique because it has such a plethora of information and so many folks trying to help and weighing in, but not a great way to coordinate the different folks, as Detective Follows has been helping us with. Patrol officers are very difficult to utilize for chronic issues, especially regarding juveniles. It just doesn't work. It's, so moving forward, we decided to hold back on all the very specific information we got over the last 10 years, and most recently, the last 2 years, regarding engineering issues, like things that we could do regarding the engineering to make it safer, and instead ask for a technician or a consultant to come in and work with the community, the school, and all of the neighborhoods, you know, as not just like behind the school, but all the surrounding neighborhoods to implement a strategic plan. And to then take that strategic plan and make that useful to other schools in the city. Mostly just because we've done so much work on this, you know, we can utilize this plan to up it a little bit. So that is what the request ended up being, is to hire a consultant. Now, again, I can forward you the application, the application. Just note that we put in one application that was like, this is what we would like to see. This is what we think are the best. We've talked to this so-and-so in engineering. We talked to this guy here. We talked to this guy here. And this is what they all said. But again, that ended up being so overwhelming because there was sometimes conflicting like ways to make improvements between different departments, that I was very pleased when Lynn brought up this like concept of let's do some real strategic planning, or ask for some real strategic planning. So we already know from experience that we don't have a lot of support from our council person on this. And again, I'm not sure why, but for this year, we are going to just like get the ball rolling, not attach all the data to it, and then see what happens and what feedback we get, and really push this hard for next year. But we're still looking for a letter of support from ELPCO on this. And I'm thinking that this letter would probably be better not coming from me. So David, I was kind of hoping maybe you could help me out with this letter.
Sure.
Okay, great. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions from the Zoom? Or can I clarify anything I just said? That was a very high level nutshell. The details are, we're asking for money to get the details on this. So we don't need to beat a dead horse. Everybody in the room already knows what the problems we've been having.
You know, are the actual amounts outlined in like the things that you're going to send us?
Yes.
Okay.
And to be clear on my budget part for the CIP, as is normal for a CIP application, constituent CIP application, we don't come up with the budgets. So it is when we meet with the folks from the city who are assigned to our CIP, and ours is under transportation and engineering, they are the ones that help the constituents come up with the necessary budget. And that was the same for
So
Dean.
you don't outline amounts that you're proposing. I see.
When's the
Because they've got the experience.
Okay, so again, the applications were already due. We finalized everything we needed to turn in, but I requested from the CIP board, as is also part of the process, an extension for the ELPCO's Community Council letter of support to be uploaded. I'd like to say that we would need to get these in by the Feb 1. So Rachel, who's in charge of it, she has documented that our letters would come in late, and it goes before the CIP board, but ASAP always.
Okay.
But Feb 1 is what I'm looking at. Any questions? Okay, we're doing so good in terms of time. Damien, thanks so much. Do you have any questions from us? Do you need anything from us?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm planning on providing like more clear information, not Zoom dependent, and
Oh, it's all, I think, we've been working on this. So like I said, I just want to give you confidence that because this board has been working on alleys, like 9th and 9th alleys are falling apart. All alleys, that's what I was going to say earlier. So many of the alleys, even in the flat areas around like Amy's house in 9th and 9th, Amy and Alice. Yeah. So the catch-22 as far as alleys go, right, is that storm water, right? Like, so if I lived on an alley and there were some potholes, like in Amy's Pump. And I couldn't get my car back there. And I wanted to go and pave it or make it look good so that I could get my car back there. That would be illegal for me to do. So the alleyways are really truly a catch-22 in Sugar House all over, because manipulating stormwater or changing the flow of stormwater is a huge liability for both folks who live next to alleys, but also the city. So Marshall, who works for State Water, and who is not here tonight, but he is our board member representing East Liberty Park, which is the 9th and 9th area. He got us in touch with his boss who works on stormwater issues, just to sort of double check what we were hearing from the city and understanding the legalities of what we can do as a community regarding alley cleanups and what we can't do. So we've hit this from all different angles. So please don't worry, your information fell on already very educated ears. So
I'm not, I mean, I think that this is a pilot for when they put out, I just stumbled on the idea that they had that line item, to deal with this particular issue.
Right.
I know we're not the only one, so I'm happy that they're, if we don't get it, we'll apply again next year, but at least the
It's
city.
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, there's something to pay attention to, it's an intersection where nobody's really in charge, and they're gonna have to develop, a test case and figure out how to evaluate next steps.
Alleys are the wild west.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, though, that we have had huge support from the mayor's office of transportation. Everybody's looking at our alleys as like, if we can fix this one, we can fix anything. So I'm not saying that it will be funded, because that's something that the city council does. But I do know from an administrative standpoint from the mayor's office and the folks that work for the mayor, they are all very eager to, again, utilize this alley as a, if we can do this, we can do anything.
Yeah, the other David Jones will tell you stories about how I pester him about alleys all the time.
It's so
I've had many conversations with them, usually.
Well,
great for conversations.
Yeah.
Context, yeah.
I think your point about, we need more housing. And a lot of people want to build ADUs, and the city wants ADUs everywhere. They want to put, 4 houses on a small lot kind of thing. If the alleys don't work, the system isn't gonna work.
And we're perfectly setting up our next speaker, who on our 8:30, we were supposed to move on to Lynn Jacobs, who is actually, are you Lynn? Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta go take.
This is, everyone, thanks for coming. So this is Keegan, and Keegan has volunteered to step in for Lynn, pinch in for Lynn, who has been run ragged. And he is here talking about 17 House South resurfacing, in which I blew my top regarding the use of alleyways that are dysfunctional regarding this project. So another sort of thing that leads into each other. And Keegan, take it away.
Yeah, so like I was just so graciously introduced, my name is Keegan. I'm with the Transportation Division. And yeah, we're going to talk about not only are we resurfacing 1700 South between 9th East and 11th East, but we are looking to reconfigure the roadway as well. So we're looking to kind of add on to the reconfiguration that we did when we reconstructed it back in, 2015. We added that eastbound bike lane on the south side of the street. We want to add a northbound bike lane. We have done some parking analysis in the area. It's not highly utilized. I think the most cars I saw, and I did my own so I've got twins. They were very young, super hard to get to sleep. So I would drive around and I did my own impromptu parking studies. I went out there probably 20, 25 times, at night, which is a really great time to understand when, parking is full. And there was maybe like 4 or 5 cars at one point. So I mean, is pretty underutilized as far as
they like to yell loudly.
Oh boy, yeah, no, I mean, anytime you touch parking, parking is such a contentious issue, and that's just how cities work, so the good news is a lot of the houses, I'm not gonna go out and say all of the houses have access to the aforementioned alleys, but they do have parking access on the back end of the alley. Now, that being said, we are going to once winter cooperates and gives us a proper storm, we would like to go and check out how that impacts the parking. Once we get like a really nice snowstorm on the street, we want to see what that looks like parking wise and see how the alleyway works with with the snow. Because I mean, alleys are, again, it's the Wild West out there, and it's tough to clean them up generally, as far as snow removal goes. So yeah, like I was saying, we're looking to remove the parking on that north side and add in a westbound bike lane. Now, it's not gonna be like a buffered bike lane or anything. It's just gonna be kind of a shoulder bike lane, very similar to what we have on the south side. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward, honestly. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just,
They're just resurfacing the street.
yeah, we're
Do they
resurfacing.
have
the street.
any traffic calming features?
No, and honestly, there's not enough space really, and so there's barely enough space for us to fit that bike lane in, to be frank with you. I mean, that's the reason why we have to remove the
Why do they
parking.
want to put the bike lane in?
It's really so first of all, it is identified on our pedestrian and bicycle master plan from 2015. So we really, we want to try and follow through on that. And it is, I mean, it's a decent way to connect, kind of a missing link in our bicycle.
It's not
Yeah.
continuous. So like up by the
Yeah.
university, or up by Westminster, there's the thing, and then there's a gap, right?
Okay.
And then it starts again right there at night. So it's kind of like
So is there between 13th and 11th, is there a bike lane on the north side? So it would be continuous to 9th, and then what happens?
And then, yeah, I
and
believe
it starts again.
I believe, there still is a bike lane. Yeah, the bike lane
There's
goes
a
all the
whole
way down.
So the idea is that we've got one bike lane there now going on the north side,
On the south
south side, and you're gonna add one on the north side.
Yeah.
But neither of them are going to have a barrier. to
Yeah, there's not
traffic.
gonna be any sort of barrier there. Now, the good news is when you do add that stripe in and really squeeze the road like that, the hope is that you induce a little bit of slowing anytime you narrow it, even if it's just a stripe like that.
And how wide are those lanes?
Let me actually look at the plan set and get an idea of what the width is on those. It looks like it's gonna be a 5-foot, pretty standard bike lane.
So just 5 feet, okay.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, from ELPCO standpoint, what happened is we did a survey as we did our housing survey. And as we've been looking at our housing stock, what we saw was that there are several multi-unit homes along that street. And that the people who are then going to get their parking taken away are all lower income, lower rental folks. And the folks who will keep their parking is the single family homeowners who have driveways. So we pulled our equity card on this, specifically as it relates to student housing and folks around Westminster. And this was largely led by Alicia, who again is no longer with us. And we asked them to redo the public outreach part of this to sort of make sure that, if we're not just because we can doesn't mean we should. And we actually were leaning towards really supporting the bike lanes, but we want to make sure that the public input piece and the process is followed better. And so that people are aware, renters especially, that they might need to look for different options for housing. Given that what we hear from planning always is there's an alley there that people can use for access. But as anybody who actually lives in the world, most people realize that alleys are not accessible, even if they are public for parking or thoroughfares, and specifically in the winter when you're a renter and you don't own a truck and your landlords don't care and all of these kind of things. So there's so much equity questions involved in this question, and that's all I'm going to say. We'll take any questions on this, but thank you for revisiting it is all I have
Yeah,
to say.
and I'm glad that I'm glad that, well, I can't sit here and say that I'm glad that Streets' equipment broke down and we weren't able to do it, but I mean, it did give us a chance to kind of reframe the conversation a little bit, and I appreciate you bringing that up because I actually went out and made a nice survey for y'all to take and to share with your community members. We would like to hear, I mean, we want to hear everybody's opinion on it. With the last survey we got a lot of responses on it, and specifically from people in the area, but we want to know more from the broader users as well. And then on top of that, the last survey, I love our advocates so much, but they have a tendency to be really gung-ho with our surveys, and they kind of skew the results with a lot of information from outside of the actual area that we want to truly hear from. Now, I guarantee there's a lot of different human beings that use this street, with the university up the hill, and then there's just a lot of stuff in the area, right? But I do want to hear from the people that it is going to impact the most.
And if you drive that street between like 3 and 7, that section is crazy busy.
Oh, it's cooking. Yeah.
We're going to be working with Sugar House on this, right, on this outreach thing, because the reality is it never even got, the only reason I heard it was from Sweet Streets bicycle advocacy programs, who were saying like, yeah, this is a done deal, and we had not yet heard about it, and neither had Sugar House. So we're going to work with.
They said it was a done deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, bicycle advocates, right? Like, this is how I heard about it, though. It wasn't.
It's a done deal until we have a conversation with Streets too. I mean, so it's.
So like to Keegan's point, advocacy is awesome, but sometimes like myths come out of advocacy. But sometimes if we are not on it, might miss something. So in this case, we weren't at all aware of any of this until, again, we caught it in a newsletter from Sweet Street. So again, thank you for revisiting it. We're going to get together with Judy and Sugar House and make sure that this is, this.
I have a comment. Whenever you take away street parking, and for whatever reason, you really need to get as much input as possible from the people that use that street parking, or else it seems to me that people disregard the no parking signs and park there anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that, and when they do that, there doesn't seem to be any enforcement of the no parking.
Right.
And which just kind of leads me to believe they never really were serious about the no parking anyway. And this is just from my own experience in my own street. But everything
on 11th East.
Everything from residents that feel like they can park a little part of the day or some of the day in a no parking zone, or commercial people that come into the neighborhood and need to park. Amazon doesn't stay very long in the no parking zone, but you'll have plumbers and contractors that do. And it just seems to me that if you're going to get rid of on-street parking, you really need to have some really good input from the people, or else it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Regardless of the reason why, whether it's you need that for a road, whether you need it for a bike lane, whatever the reason.
I agree.
And if in this particular case, I think it's great that you're finally connecting a bike lane. That makes sense. But if you're getting rid of street parking and the people don't have anywhere else to park, they're just going to park in the bike lane.
Yeah. And that is often,
your garbage cans are in the bike lane for a whole day.
Well, that's another conversation that I've been having quite often with sustainability in general, is to kind of figure out some messaging on how to deal with that.
I say put them in the alleyway. As a planner, the alleys are for.
Great comments, David, based on experience. I mean, this is like real life, what it actually looks like out there on the planet, and nobody knows better than ELPCO right now. On Lake Street, on 11th East.
I ran into it on 30.
It doesn't make any difference if there's a bike lane, it's going to have, or a fire lane, people are going to park in it. So
now, to take my personal, and give my personal opinion on it, I would like to see more advisory bike lanes, but that's a radical idea.
What's an advisory bike lane?
It's more of a
protected.
Yeah, well, no, so an advisory bike lane is more of is kind of a situation where cars can use the bike lane to pass each other, but it's more of like a single lane. Bike lanes exist, parking, it kind of pulls all of these elements together on a narrower street. I would highly suggest looking it up.
Putting this on for you to come back to tell us all about this, because we have time issues, so
No,
we're
you're
gonna
good.
get to our planners now, if that's all right. But Keegan, thank you so much for pinch hitting for Lynn and for filling us in, and
And yeah, take the survey, and if you have any questions at all, you reach out to Lynn or reach out to myself. I'm happy to.
did you put it up
Yeah.
online or when?
I did, yeah, I put it
Okay.
online.
Okay, we're gonna be going and knocking on doors again and talking to folks.
Yeah, we'll be out in the area again as well, doing a little canvassing as well. So.
Great. All right, well,
And those of us with driveways are grateful.
I'm sure. Oh,
let's let the planners take up whatever time they need, and just like I said, you guys take your time, whatever you need to do. We're excited that you stuck with us this long, and hopefully you got to learn about. So
Heck, yeah. Yeah, we're glad too. I think the way we're gonna work on it, sorry, we do have three of us.
Mhm.
We're gonna share the PowerPoint over here. I think Aaron's gonna direct over there and
We were all here to answer questions.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm the Vanna White tonight.
yeah,
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Keegan, take care.
have a good one, guys.
So I think this is Judy's third time seeing this presentation. So Judy gets a gold star. Yeah, she might be able to give it better than us. So
Judy, you be the.
I don't know, I still have to write my letter.
that's right.
This proposal came out of a lot of study from our team here looking into what's going on with these two districts, the RMF 35, the RMF 45, the multifamily zoning districts. And go to the next slide. Just to give you some context, these are the two districts here where they're located. They're mostly, in our more historic parts of the city, avenues, central city, or historic districts. You can see here in ELPCO, there is a smattering of
There's only 10.
10
but
properties
There's 10.
within this district.
And I think 8 of those are right along 9th.
That makes sense.
Yeah, oh, this is
Closer looks at it.
Oh, this is it, yeah.
I'm sorry, just to back up, but what are we talking about? RMF?
So
Oh,
RMF 35 and 45, there are moderate to high density residential districts
does
that
that
are
stand for?
currently
Sorry.
existing.
Okay.
A residential multifamily, 35 is 35 feet and 45 is 45 feet.
Okay.
Okay.
Within
Okay,
that
to
size.
quickly refresh your memories, we worked on RMF 30 issues,
Okay.
right? So now this is a
Okay.
different thing.
This is the
Got
higher
it.
density.
Okay.
version.
Yeah.
I'm back.
So.
Just kind of carrying the torch, right?
Which ones what colors are RMF 35 and what colors are RMF 40 on your map?
I actually can't remember.
The darker.
Darker one is RMF 45, lighter one is RMF 35.
So we have RMF 45s in
You have,
ELPCO.
I think, 2 properties
Yeah.
that are
Okay,
45.
what streets are those?
This is.
Yeah, I think that might be a little off, actually.
That's okay.
Because I don't know that we have any RMF 45s in our, in ELPCO.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah,
We will
but
track that down.
I mean, the point is, we're mostly here in case you have questions about it generally, or if you're involved in other parts of the city. We're here obviously because we want to hear from you, so.
Yeah, we're in the early engagement process. We're looking for comments, feedback on the proposal. We have a website and we'll have it listed up here. I've sent it to you.
Mhm.
And should be shared on.
I can put that in the chat as well, but yeah, we can make sure everyone gets
What's
that.
the
Is
proposal?
everybody here on our newsletter are all of our board members? So it's been on Facebook and it's been in our newsletter. So
So we'll go.
But
to
then they have to go and read the proposal, so they know what's happening.
Yes.
Why don't you give them 3 sentences on how they're gonna be combined?
Okay,
We're getting.
we're getting there. So,
Okay.
yeah, let's start with the problem first, because, like Harold Hill, you can't have a solution, so you have a problem. So, but there really is an issue here. These two zoning districts, they're meant to be multifamily, but our analysis of them found that only 25% of the properties actually allow multifamily housing, meaning 3 or more units. Most are not wide enough for development. back in the day, they measured properties with chains and rods, and three chains is 49.5 feet, and our minimum lot width is 50 feet. So a big chunk of them are just 6 inches too short to qualify for a lot of development. Or, if you wanted to change the use of your property, that's a challenge. I'm talking to someone who owns the church down by the Liberty Wells Community Center that can't change the use because it's 49.5 feet wide. And then 47% of them are smaller than 5,000 square feet. That is the minimum lot size for a single family house in these districts. And that is the density of a single family district, but these are multifamily districts. And since 1995, only 4% of the properties in these districts have seen any sort of building permit or development. That's not what we want to see in those districts where we're wanting to have that missing middle housing between. Go to the next slide, actually. Next slide. Well, I'll keep moving. So basically, the missing middle housing, that's kind of between our detached single family districts and our large scale apartment buildings you see popping up on 4 South, North Temple, and other parts of the city. And we don't want those in our neighborhoods. We want, at a varying scale, we want duplexes up to maybe our stacked multifamily that are a little bit larger, but still within the scale of a neighborhood.
Well, frankly, I like this because ELPCO is mostly what's on the far left, right? It's mostly going to be that super low density. And then, yeah, as we get closer to downtown, north of 9th is when we start to get into this gradient towards the city, right?
I have a question, just before we go on, just to clarify. So we are zoned single family, R1,
R1,
but we're almost all legal non-conforming
Sure.
duplexes, triplexes, sixplexes.
Yeah,
So
a lot of them.
where would we really be on this map?
Yeah, probably, I guess, a little more.
Somewhere in there.
Okay, that's what I'm wondering. Our zoning status is very different.
I mean,
than
as I walk down my street, about 3/4 of them look to be single family homes, and then half of those have been, or the remaining quarter, half have been converted into apartments. And then you've got triplexes, quads.
That's what I just, yeah.
Exactly.
And so for the people who ask us, moving forward, we're really not at the far left, like Yale Crest more. We're more bumping up there in that green area. Is that accurate for us to answer questions? Okay,
Yes.
great. Thanks. Okay.
And you bring
But
up,
we're there on a non-conforming basis, not because we're zoned that way.
and you bring up a good point because he's going to get into it, but that's what we found during our analysis of
Okay.
what the zone says and what's actually on the ground doesn't always match. And we're trying to make those match a little bit better.
Exactly.
And one issue that's come up is a lot of these legal non-conforming buildings, when a homeowner or developer goes through this process to confirm that a building's legal non-conforming, it is set to the fire codes that were established when that thing was established, the house was established, 1960, 1985, whatever. So those walls may be too thin and create a fire hazard. The hope here is by legalizing these, we are, requiring fire code at this point in those things. And at least in those areas that's RMF 35, we'll work on the R1 things in the future.
But that's for new development.
I know that.
If we find one that's non-conforming, if it's not, it's not legal, but you want to keep the houses there, it can still be in this RMF 35 district. It could still be done, but they'd have to, get those 2-hour wall separations that currently is not the case in a lot of those.
But this is exactly what I think we're testing on 704 East 900 South, of where they're attempting to, work on this. So even though, yes, it is for new build, but that's what I'm celebrating is that but I'm also saying that this will have implications for.
Yes. Let's keep going. So here we'll go over the proposal. Essentially, we're taking these two districts, RMF 35 and RMF 45, and merging them together. And instead of focusing on just a standard height, the height is based on the type of building, and the standards for those different types of buildings will be different. So for a vertical multifamily, that's going to be much taller, have a much larger impact. So the standards will be higher. There'll be a bigger setback. There will be step backs. There'll be material requirements. Design standards, windows, but for these, an urban house or 2-family, an urban house just means a house with up to 2 units, and the doors can be anywhere on the house. They could be downstairs next to the front one. as opposed to a two-family is your classic duplex with kind of a mirror image of each other, a street. And then the density of the number of units on a lot is determined by the lot size, just like all the other districts. Currently, the density requirements in these districts is confusing, and you need a math degree to calculate these things because as you have more area on your lot, the density requirements get looser. So essentially, it incentivizes developers to collect land and then clear it and build something new there because they're going to pencil out as they gather space, as opposed to filling in, little pieces where there's space available in these zones. Next slide. So we have some general standards for this proposal. There is a max lot width, hopefully to, again, discourage that type of gathering properties and consolidating into one development. 110 feet is it's about 1/4 of a historic Salt Lake City block. 440 feet is kind of the width between each 1,000 east or 100 east or, the 100, whatever. And then lot and building location options. This is to provide some flexibility on the property where you can place a house or a new build somewhere on the property as long as it has access to the street, and then to subdivide it in a way that it could be sold and not just rented. Requiring mid-block walkways where they're required. Right now, there aren't really any mid-block walkway required in these zones, but the city is working on updating many of our community plans, neighborhood plans, and you may see a requirement in neighborhoods in the future. Might include alleys in the future.
And so what would a mid-block walkway be?
Essentially, how our blocks are humongous, and
I've noticed that. I'm coming from another part of the country.
And you have places like Regent Street that cut right through the middle of the block. I mean, that's a really nice downtown version, but you'll have some where it's just a greened up space that cuts through a development or next to a development. It gets you from one side of the block to the other without having to go all the way around. That's the goal of those. And our downtown area has a lot of established mid-block walkways or planned mid-block walkways, but other parts of the city need it as well. Because trying to walk some places is just a headache.
I'm gonna hook us up with a tour of Central Ninth in the spring so that we can really get our minds around mid-block walkways and also how alleys can potentially serve the purpose.
There's some good examples there, some of those developments.
Well, they're the ones on your photos. So.
Yeah. Okay, and then there is a bonus for preserving buildings on your property. If someone wants to say invest in their home and they keep their house that's, they're on the property, they could get additional units on the lot. Or if a developer does buy a property, they're incentivized to keep the existing house on the lot, maintain that streetscape on the main part of the street and move homes to the back. And yeah, we had a large discussion about alleys, and that would be, they would be accessed by the alley in that case. Next slide. There are some design standards. There are no design standards in these districts right now. Right now, someone can go and build an apartment building that looks awful. Some, that really stucco EFS stuff.
They are building.
Yeah.
Yes, we could give you a list.
Yeah. And
It's
so
so ugly.
the idea is we want this to fit in with the neighborhood, requiring porches, having windows that actually provide interest to pedestrians, materials that aren't, deteriorating after a year of installation. And then things like the width of the building, making sure they don't stretch really far and you make it difficult again to get across the block. And then step backs, we are requiring step backs in two cases. One, when they're next to a historic building, and the other when they're next to single family. And this is really only for multifamily buildings and for row houses. The cottage courts and the twin homes and things would not be required to have a step back because they're much lower impact. Next slide. Okay, let's take a deep breath. Parking. Currently in this district, it is all over the place depending on the type of building, if it's a row house, if it's a single family house, and the number of units within that, or number of units or number of bedrooms within a specific unit. It ranges from 1 to 2 spaces right now within these districts. The proposal is to just make it 1-to-1. Most of this district is within a 1/4 mile of transit. The other really conversation we've been having is if we want to have missing middle that is family friendly, Doesn't mean they can't have two parking spaces, but if a developer, and you know how they are, they're sometimes pretty cheap, has to choose between a parking space and a bedroom, we'd rather they choose the bedroom and have a 3-bedroom with 1 parking space as opposed to a 2-bedroom with 2 parking spaces. And that's what we want to see, hopefully bringing in units that are at least family sized. I mean, depending on the size, young family sized, right? Some they need 4 or 5 bedrooms if they're teenagers, but that's the hope in this proposal. Next slide. Okay, this is a summary of the building forms that would be allowed in this district. So we got the urban house and 2-family talked about. Nothing can be on a lot smaller than 1,500 square feet, and that is pretty small, but there are lots of examples in this district that actually have duplexes and single families on a 1,500 square foot lot. Quite a few in the ballpark area. I think there's a couple here. I don't have examples. I actually got rid of the one. It's on the, where's that really cool one? It was on like Jefferson out in ballpark, but it was a really small property. Anyway, cottage development. This is, you know what those look like. They're like these little smaller homes facing an internal court. We're proposing, allow these really, actually, we're changing this, but because that's.
We changed it yesterday.
So we're listening.
Yeah, we are trying to incentivize this type of development where, you can have a lot of smaller homes facing the inner court. Something that's not high impact, but can still hold maybe multiple units in a smaller area without the amount of impact you see on a row house, which kind of tends to kind of elbow out neighbors. I mean, row houses are permitted. They do have stricter setback and landscape yard setbacks, meaning they have to have 10 feet of a landscaped yard and a step back after 30 feet. Same with vertical multifamily. And other buildings, that's schools, churches, other institutional uses, need to be on a lot 5,000 square feet. And they also have those same requirements and step back requirements. We're also limiting the number of units within a structure. So like a row house, no more than 6 on a row house collection. And same with multifamily, no more than 20 units. And you'll be happy to know that developers didn't really like that very much, but it's a.
Can I ask about the row house thing? So the limit is how many was the limit on?
So each building with row houses, let's say like a set of, cannot be more than 6.
Why?
Essentially, you get a really long row. We've got some developments happening like that, especially out on Redwood Road. You've got quite a few.
I mean, we have neighborhood. I came from Pittsburgh. We have neighborhoods that are, and Philadelphia is notorious for them, where you have block after block of row houses. And I'm just curious as to, because that is a pretty good density and is family friendly.
Yeah, in in our more urban districts, we do allow longer row houses. This tends to be that space between more urban areas and our single families. And a lot of times these row houses, they will be actually rotated sideways, meaning you have a long lot.
They go in the middle of the block.
And they go through the middle of the lot.
So there's fire issues too.
Yes, they don't have that traditional brownstone feel, that they're going to be turned sideways. We don't want to have something that just goes on forever. We want to break it up into a scale that at least mimics the scale of houses that are around it, or at least is more compatible with it, as opposed to a.
So turned sideways, they're going to be shallow in depth, right? Because these lots aren't that wide.
It kind of depends. Not around here, not really. There's areas in Poplar Grove and Rose Park where they start to be a lot wider and deeper, where there's opportunities for those types of row houses. There's also one by the Picnic Cafe and the 7-Eleven. I think is that in your neighborhood or is that?
It's not in our neighborhood. Yeah. So again, it's outside of, but keep in mind, new land use chair, that this is a city-wide proposal. So while it's very little effect here in ELPCO, this is, something that we're hopefully trying to provide.
Well, and these are mostly areas that are higher density than ours. To begin with.
Or supposed to be.
Yeah, supposed to.
And that's the problem with this district. I mean, there are a lot of areas on the ground, you'll see it is much like here with the 3-4 units in a house, or these old apartment buildings with lots of units in them. Other times you'll see something zoned RMF 35 and it's a single family house on a pretty big lot, and they can't put anything on there, even though they're zoned for multifamily. Sorry, let's keep going. Next slide. And here's some, again, some examples. So this is what we were talking about, the 4 units in a house. Right now, this is in the avenues, an example. It would not be allowed in the RMF district, even though it's multifamily. This would bring it into compliance. And if they wanted to change it in any way, there would be rules that would kick in. So next slide. This one's a little more dense, like I was talking about. There's some really historic apartments that have some density you would not recognize from the street just because they look really nice. This one has 7 units on a 4,000 square foot lot. We're not bringing it to that level of density, but the idea is it's closer than what's currently allowed. Next slide. And then these are the process we're in right now for feedback. We are meeting with community councils. I think Judy's on a tour with us. And we'll have a briefing on February 12th with the planning commission. That's not like a hearing where the community can comment, but you can still watch and see what the planning commission thinks. And then on March 12th, we'll have a public hearing. That's when the public can provide their comments. Community councils will read their letters, or you come and read them yourself. And we'll see what the planning commission has to say there. If they agree with our proposal, we'll try and get this sent to city council in April. But we are modifying the request right now based on commentary from other community councils, and that's what we'd like to hear. I have comment cards here if you want to leave your comment in writing. But this is the website right here. It's that short URL.
You can leave a comment on there as well, or email us. All our emails are on there as well.
You can also look up your property to see if it is in the zoning district, or just zoom around and look at the map as well.
Can you go back one slide to that apartment unit? So what did you say about this? The proposed change and or combination of these zoning areas would require this building to change what they have?
No, it's legal non-conforming, but right now, we just want to point out, like, under the current regulations, if it was built today, only 1 unit would be allowed on that property.
Because of the size of the lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And the
It's a
proposal
very
would bring it up
small
to 5, which is not what's there, and we want to keep it. Like, it's
Right.
historic and beautiful.
And it's
Okay.
like great student housing.
Right.
Out of there, students.
It's great, but that's still some pretty intense density that we don't want to quite go to that level with new development, but we do want to see something at this scale in those areas where it works.
Okay, I got you.
So I know I went through that pretty fast, but you have some questions or comments or thoughts on anything I've gone through, I can go back to any slides as well.
I mean,
Yes.
I feel, or this is not, I have no expertise in urban planning,
No.
but do you, I guess what I would want to know is, what is the high level vision, and do you feel confident in the leadership of your planning department of the city? And how would you describe them as innovative?
Yeah, this is, I mean, innovative. We've been working, I wouldn't say we're like breaking ground in urban planning, but we are looking at what the city needs, what's been going on the ground. We've really studied these districts to see what's happening and what needs to be done to kind of bring development into these districts that is already there, or to bring things into compliance that are legal non-conforming. This kind of is following in the wake of a different project. It was a mixed use and commercial district consolidation. And that was another project. And
That's the last one. Yeah, that was very complicated.
and this is kind of following that same format. We're trying to get our zoning district consistent, so you're not reading one section and someone says, oh no, you have to go to, this obscure section over here where you forgot this requirement. We're trying to make it readable, understandable, but also like work for the city as far as the context that we have. Well, we're trying to be flexible because we're trying to balance, the costs of housing. You put too many requirements on new housing, it raises the initial price of it too little, and you end up with messy nonsense. So trying to balance that. We want to see some design standards, but we're not going to tell people like, go to an architect board and we're going to put you through a 6-month process to get something we think is deemed tasteful.
Yeah.
But we are gonna say there are certain aspects that need to be included in your development so that it fits in with the character of the neighborhood.
And from a planning perspective, is there a gold standard? Is there a city that we're like, we want to be like them?
Pittsburgh and no, no, we saw a little bit about form-based code. I mean, this is like kind of nuanced planner talk, but
I told you weeds, we like the weeds.
the weeds, that's right. Our code right now is primarily traditionally zoned or Euclidean zoning. And it's an old way. We're not pioneers in the form-based movement. I think we're not like radical in that sense. I think you were asking about, or progressive, I guess. But we are seeing that certain cities around the country, around this planet, are proving this form-based movement to be successful. We're following that in the footsteps of those cities.
Yeah, besides Pittsburgh, whatever.
Yeah, besides Pittsburgh.
I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Boise.
Yeah,
I've been spending a lot of time in Boise, just.
Durham, North Carolina.
Yeah, Durham's a really good one.
Yeah, it's all over.
Those cities that are facing the same sort of housing issues,
Right.
are rising costs.
Ones that need density.
We don't want to see our historic neighborhoods be, cleared away for new housing, but we do need that new housing. And we've been looking at Portland's another one that has some options there. It's a little too complicated. We took their stuff and simplified it because that big city planning sometimes it's a little too much. But we're trying to create something that allows for, if you own a home, be able to invest in your property, age in place, you talked about, and have something there to provide you an income in the long term, but also provide housing to the community and provide housing for home ownership, more options in that way, because we know we've run into issues with condominiums in the state, something with state code, bank financing, risk, interest rates, all this stuff coming together, and condominiums are suddenly really challenging to finance.
Actually, we met with the state and they simply say that it's not state code, that it's essentially a myth. So like we're moving away from, I think, this kind of rhetoric that you're bringing up.
What are you
right
talking
now.
about with the?
Well, so we met with Cox's office and they did this big, it was Austin and the RDA, they put on that thing at the library where Cox's folks came and said that, the panel said, we're really pro condominiums, but for whatever reason, there was this history of, of stuff that that he's referring to.
Federal regulations, banking risk.
There are financing
Stuff,
differences
right,
in the way mortgages are treated.
Architects don't like to touch them,
But by promoting, the ground, you're able to sell the ground underneath the house, suddenly the banks are okay with it. So we're trying to bring zoning in that way as well, so people can own these properties, own their house. And, long-term investment. Obviously, there's still renter opportunities as well. We want that mix.
I have one question, maybe comment. You make the changes to the zoning, you get builders to come in and build. And if whatever it is that they build, if it's so expensive that young families, young people can't buy it, it doesn't do our neighborhood or cities any good, because we need a younger population in the city. So does this redoing of the zoning encourage less expensive
That's our hope.
building?
But not so ugly.
But
So we actually were looking into some what other cities have done. The idea, there's a difference between affordable and cheaper than the neighborhood. Like, for example, if you're going on the East Bench and you're able to sell a home for less than $600,000, that is affordable or more affordable in that neighborhood.
Yeah, right.
Same with here. If we're able to bring down the median cost of housing or of a new home in these neighborhoods, comparables,
High rent neighborhood.
then we're seeing success. And that still may not be attainable for some families. And that is a larger issue that I don't think we can solve in the short term, but with the zoning, the idea is hopefully push it down just a little bit. And they've seen success in places like Durham, where they've expanded zoning and allowing things like this, and they've seen a drop in the median house housing costs.
Because part of the problem now is like single family homes, you are required to have a certain size of lot. And so to maximize the cost of that property and then also the construction, they have to build a bigger home, which by default is more expensive than like these smaller 1-2 bedroom starter homes.
And the big ugly ones.
So it
Yeah,
has,
so
that has,
we're trying to promote smaller homes that people can buy to start out in.
but to do that practically, you need to give a developer a lot big enough to put 30 houses down, right? I mean, you can't, I mean, somebody sold, we had that lot that was on sale on 800 East. They had it on the market for $750,000 for the lot. Now, no one's gonna build a small, single family house on a lot if they're spending $600,000 or $700,000. And that's not a big lot, that's 37 and a half by 155.
But that's why this is coming into place to fix that problem that we had. We also had that at 1005 East Princeton. So like all of these big mega mansions that they're building on our little teeny ELPCO lots have been because we needed a zoning change 5 years ago, in my opinion.
Well, but I mean, I don't know what you're gonna put on a 37 and a half
Okay,
foot wide
well,
lot.
In essence of time, right, and to just like get these guys at home to their families, I just want to be clear that ELPCO is launching our new land use and transportation committee on the second Thursday of the month, where this is part of our affordable living initiative, because we're tired of not talking about transportation and land use in the same sentences. Like we just feel like it needs to overlap more. So this is going to be on our agenda. So, you will be able to ask all of these questions preparing for these meetings. And I have to tell you, this group of people, especially I mostly been talking to Aaron, he has been so helpful getting really down into details, and he's already done a lot of the legwork, sort of talking to me. So I'm going to invite you, since this is going to be your first meeting, to like reach out to Aaron and ask these really specific questions that we will be taking up in detail at our meeting. Okay.
You put that in the chat, Grant or anyone, or contact info. I ran out of parts and I did not pick up any today.
And also remember, this is specifically for the R zones. I think, have we announced the R1?
No.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to R1 already?
No, there was a study done, if you remember.
I know,
like
yeah.
city council,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
th-
like we're.
This is
investigating.
private information, yeah.
You're saving
it's
that
all-
for last.
I'm just glad that we're not there
It's
yet,
like-
because that's going to be a
It's an investigative
maelstrom.
We're saving alleys for that.
R1,
Is that artist?
being how we're connected to Yellcrest, how
Yeah.
closely we're connected to that, that R1 study we almost got, it was bad. So like, when that actually does come up again, we're fortified.
I will
Yeah, that
say
conversation is continuing.
there's some other community councils that were kind of pushing, you need to start working on R1 because we're taking most of the burden and.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're right in between those ones. So we're trying to do a
Yeah.
middle ground, which
Yeah.
is why we're leading. So at this new initiative that we're pushing, Central City is gonna be there. Central 9 is gonna be there. Like
East Central?
well, no.
Okay.
Like let's just say we'll invite them, but whether or not they come is.
I will say with your question, like the density changes here, what would used to be just one house on 5,000 square feet, we change up to 6 houses comparably. So it's not like a drastic change, but it is something we're trying to move the needle. And this is just one piece of a big cornucopia of
Problem, zoning and financing.
The quiver.
Yeah.
But okay, just to make sure that like we remember this, we punctuate this moment, is that those big then mega places that you had in your neighborhood, and you had in your neighborhood, and you had in Liberty Wells where suddenly you have all these tiny or these lots being turned into 1.5 million mega single family homes is largely a result of what they're trying to fix. Now, whether or not will work, we don't know, but
At least
it's
a
up
barrier
to us.
I'd say it's
put
a
in
property
good
of the land price.
So anyway, yeah. All right, so
Thank you so much.
I'm tired. Does anybody else have any questions? Anyone online? There's still people online, but they're not.
They've gone.
All right.
Their pictures are gone. They're
Well-
probably all in bed.
If this is the case, then I am going to actually adjourn our meeting tonight. Thank you, everybody,
Yay.
for coming. We appreciate you out there. Thank you, Maria. Oh, thank you, Brandy. So we had Maria Garcias, who is the executive director of Neighbor Works. We've been working on some things together. So that's another part that we're trying to bring together.
Checked, you know, they were land.
I did not know that. That's very.
For a long time, they were.
Hold on, let me turn this off. real quick.
Wow.
And when I bought my
What's
house there in
happening?
1981.
So Zoom is
the property
updating
tax
and
rate
now
on the
I
land
was
is
constantly
still 5
confused.
times the rate.
Interesting.
So if you go and you